Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first WiMSA Tech Talk of 2025. My name is 𝗕𝗁𝗂𝗫𝗂𝗫, and I'm honored to be your host today as we explore the theme, Innovate, Sustain, and Grow in the South African mining sector. I'm not alone with me today. I'm with 𝗪𝗪𝗂, who is also here as part of the WiMSA team. Today's discussion aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We're looking at Goals 8, which promotes a decent work and economic growth, and SDG 16, which focuses on peace, justice, and strong institutions. Our distinguished panelists will bring a unique insight into the role of research, development, innovation in the mining sector, the work that has been done, and the impact of technology governance in the industry. And this follows on the conversation that we've been having from last year, where we talked about gender-based violence, we talked about your imposter syndrome, we talked about innovation in the mining sector. So this is also to show that we as WiMSA and we as women in the mining space, we are growing. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Dr. 𝗕𝗵𝗂𝗶𝗶 𝗪𝗏. Dr. 𝗕𝗵𝗂 is a senior research specialist at the Human Science Research Council. His work focuses on research, development, and innovation in both mining and agriculture, with a PhD in innovation studies from the University of the Witwatersrand and multiple published works. He brings deep insights into the state of research, development, and innovation investments in the South African mining sector. Today, Dr. 𝗕𝗵𝗂 will be speaking to us in terms of minerals industry, research, development, innovation landscape in South Africa, with a focus on evidence-based trends in the mining sector, looking at research, development, and innovation. Over to you, Dr. 𝗕𝗵𝗂, and welcome.
Thank you, 𝗪𝗏, and can you see my screen? I need to share first. Okay, cool. Okay, good afternoon to ladies and gentlemen, the colleagues who have taken their time to join us in this interesting conversation. It's an exciting one. I mean, if you look at the theme, it's Innovate, Sustain, and Grow. And I thought I should just come up here, share some trends, raise some questions. Maybe they are difficult questions for everyone to sort of think about in terms of what's happening. I'm just going to look at research, development, and innovation landscape, obviously in the industry, just sharing some RD&I activity and investment trends. So, but basically, when you think about the theme today about Innovate, Sustain, and Grow, you sort of start thinking about future mining capabilities. We start thinking about socioeconomic or socio-environmental returns, where you have economic returns, but at the same time, you're also trying to sustain the environment. But then what do we need when we start thinking about future mining? So the mining industry really requires innovation and, of course, modernization, if you start thinking about it, to address the kind of challenges that the sector is facing. We can visit some of the policy documents, for instance, the STI Indicator Plan 2022, emphasizing the idea of modernization, which is basically linked to this Innovate and Grow. But then how do we sort of start thinking about modernization, which is the theme I tried to sort of also introduce here, which is around technological change that creates major economic transition. Of course, we're making reference to Mineral Council as one of the key players in the space, and also a champion of modernization. And some of the examples, when you start thinking about modernization of mining, you start thinking about things like automation of mining processes, robotics, advanced analytic data analytics. You can think of use of advanced sensors and remote monitoring systems. Of course, there are a couple of the various benefits that are linked to the modernization of the processes or using innovation, obviously, to sort of grow and sustain mining, which things like increased output. You can think of reduced personnel costs, improved asset utilization, reduced downtime, fewer health and safety incidences, to mention a few. So those are things to think about. But the key question here that I bring forward is what kind of capabilities or research, development, and innovation capabilities is the South African mining industry having as we sort of speak at the moment, if we're thinking about innovate, sustain, and grow, or start thinking about how we can use innovation? Are we sort of, is our industry having the capabilities? Is it ready to sort of take that challenge? We talk about many other things like digitalization and automation and all that. Is the sector ready? So those are some of the things or rather the focus or the main question that I'm basically thinking about at this point. So I'm using, or rather I'm exploring the two data sets. These are key projects in the Human Sciences Research Council Center for Science, Technology, and Innovation Indicators, one which is the annual research and experimental development, and also the Business Innovation Survey, basically covering the 2019 to 2021 period. So the first thing I wanted to get is how much is, or how many mining firms innovation active? And if you look at the pie chart, just above 50% of the mining firms are innovation active. And there is a larger sort of group that, I mean, around 40% that is not, starting to raise many questions as to are we sort of having enough firms in the mining sector that are being innovation active. Then I also try to bring this, the funding aspect of mining firms in terms of innovation, to see where and who funds their innovation. And if you look at the figure that I presented there, firms actually rely on their own funds for innovation activities. Of course, outside government funding, you see firms opting for debt funding, equity finance. So those are some of the things that we are coming out when we go out there and trying to explore what the mining industry is actually being able to do. I thought also it will be interesting to not only talk about innovation, but look at R&D performance in the sector. I just displayed a 3-year trend, 2020 to 2021, 2021 to 2022, and 22 to 23. And as you can see, the middle part there, which is 2021, 22, there was a dip. And if you look at the 2022, 2023, at least there was some sort of an increase. So we're looking at, 913 million, 750,000 R&D investment in the mining sector, which is, so I was just explaining there that I was just presenting the R&D performance in the last 3 years, which is the financial year 2020-21 to 2020-2023, showing a dip in 2021-2022 financial year. So I then I move to the next slide, where I'm trying to see which sectors, or rather subsectors within the mining sector that has contributed more R&D. And I can see about 79% in the year 2021-2022, mining of metal ores, except gold and uranium was the highest, followed by service activities incidental to mining of minerals. These are more like firms that are doing some kind of service activities than actual primary mining. We can see the lowest there being mining of coal and lignite in terms of R&D contribution or R&D performance. So as I said earlier in one of the slides, you can see private businesses are actually investing most of the R&D in the mining sector in 2021, 2022, compared to other sources, compared to foreign sources, compared to government and other local businesses. Now, I also decided to have a sense of whether or not is research and development investment in the areas that can promote growth and sustainability, looking at the research fields and where most of the R&D is in terms of the research field. And engineering sciences is actually coming tops. But when one looks there, you've got information, basically ICT related activities there in terms of R&D being the lowest. A question could then be, maybe is it that R&D activities related to ICT in the mining are actually in services industries and other industries like manufacturing or not? That's a question. So in terms of R&D, I looked at personnel as well. The proportions of different personnel in terms of supporting modernization, for instance, or technology development or innovation. And I can see there, if you look at that pie chart, nearly half of R&D personnel in the year in question, 2021, 2022, were actually researchers. One can also start thinking as to whether are we having sufficient research technicians or not. Well, one, I think the reason that I'm actually focusing on 2021, 22 is because the innovation data, which is a different data set, was covering that period. So I wanted to sort of bring a kind of tips and themes and trends that are actually of the same or rather the similar financial year period. So in terms of trying to close the short conversation that or rather the short presentation that I had, is starting to think about innovation and growth in mining. I mean, RD&I varies across subsectors, as we can see there, but also we well aware that the adoption of technology, of digital technologies now has a potential to actually transform mining. But in terms of observing what R&D performance is in the sector is pretty low, which pushes us to raise a couple of questions as well. The evidence also in terms of shown us that a breakdown of firms that are innovation actives or not. And some of the questions that I thought thinking about when I look at this is whether or not enough firms are being innovation active, and what can be done so that we can have more firms being supported to innovate. Are we sort of spending enough on the right kind of R&D? And where do we see the expenditure on advanced technologies? That's what I said earlier in terms of whether or not maybe this is taking place, but the sector is dependent on other sectors in terms of ICT and digital related technologies. And the issues around who invest in R&D and technology or other innovation in mining. Should there be some sort of greater public sector support for RD&I investment on core technologies that can benefit mining sector nationally in terms of economic growth, address environmental degradation, deal with toxic waste? So basically, how can we grow foreign sources, for example, as one of the potential sources of funding? And how can we also ensure that the local industry will benefit through technology transfer because of global value chains and international competition, interactions, and many other economic activities that are linked to mining. Also, as I raised the questions about whether or not where is the digital technology in mining, do we need more research on digitalization, for example, and also as sciences, which is directly related to environmental impact, and because mining is where mining actually takes place. And also the question of personnel and human resources. Do we have the right proportions of researchers versus technicians? Is there something that needs to be done in that aspect, or also do we sort of have the right kind of skills in the industry as well? So these are some of the questions. When I was looking at the trends, I thought these are the questions that I can actually come and pose here to say, here are some of the questions that we can start thinking about in relation to the kind of evidence that we were able to collect. I think that was my last slide. Yeah, I've set my email and a code, QR code there for more of our information and outputs, reports, and all that talks about R&D and all that. So I appreciate the opportunity to share a bit of research that we do in relation to R&D and innovation in the mining sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. 𝗕𝗂𝗏. That was a mouthful. I'd like to encourage the participants to share their questions in the chat. And right now, before we move on to our next speaker, I'd like to take one burning question from the audience. If there's any, just one burning question, you can raise your hand and we can take that one question now. In the meantime, while we wait for that one burning question, the one question that I have is to say, looking at the stats that you have shared with us, as good as they are, and showing that we are doing something in the research space, would you say that we have a strong fighting chance in the global stage, looking at how things are moving, looking at our 2030 sustainability goals? Would you say we have a fighting chance? Do we still need to invest more? How are you looking at this?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, obviously, if you look at the R&D performance, we would have expect a trend line that is actually going upwards, but it's jingling at some point, is going down, at some point is picking up. So it will be sort of interesting to see how our next survey would show the 2023-2024 survey that we are currently busy with. It will be very interesting to see whether the line will go down or up compared to what happened to the previous one, which went up. But interestingly, in relation to that, we have some work that we're doing with Mineral Council, where we're trying to look at the readiness of firms in terms of modernization, looking at RD&I for modernization of mining. We currently analyzing the data and sort of getting some of the insights in terms of the reasons why firms are engaging in these things, the reasons why firms are struggling to sort of modernize or adopt or use advanced technology. So we are currently analyzing the data. We did study with the Mineral Council that we currently busy with. So I think we're going to be able to share more insights also in terms of how we're doing going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask you one burning question from Theodora, and then Rebecca, you will note your question. We'll tackle it towards the end. Theodora is asking to say, to what extent are women represented as part of the RD&I personnel component?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
To what extent are women represented as part of the research development and innovation personnel component?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I thought about it, but I didn't put anything on that. It can be an assignment. I believe we're gonna have more charts where we can also focus on the gender element as well, just to bring it forth and see how we're doing, because it would be difficult to just give you the numbers on top of my head at the moment.
Okay, no, thank you so much. Theodore, we will go back to Dr. 𝗕𝗂𝗂 for that response. Rebecca, I've noted your question. I'll give it to him towards the end. Now, I'd like to ask 𝗨𝗂𝗂 to introduce our next speaker.
Yes, it's a pleasure for us to introduce our next speaker, 𝗨𝗶𝗂𝗀 𝗀𝗵𝗂. 𝗨𝗶𝗂𝗀 is the Woman in Mining Project Specialist at the Minerals Council South Africa. Prior to occupying this role, she spent 15 years working at various companies in the South African financial services and as an employee benefits consultant, wherein she consulted to a portfolio of boards of trustees of institutional retirement funds on their company's group long-term insurance benefits. She holds a Bachelor of Economics degree from Rhodes University, a postgrad diploma, and a Master of Philosophy degree in Development Finance from the Stellenbosch University's Business School. Her passion for equitable socioeconomic development, women's empowerment, and the advancement of women's right to self-actualize and thrive in all aspects of society is what drew her to the Minerals Council and her current role. This drive also led to her spending time working at a women's cooperative in Bolivia in South America. I'll just be sharing her slides.
Thank you. Thank you very much, 𝗨𝗂𝗂, for that introduction. And thank you to everybody in the room. Good afternoon once again. I just want to say a special thank you to the previous speaker, Dr. 𝗕𝗂𝗂, for illustrating or demonstrating perfect allyship by agreeing to go first in this conversation. Really appreciate it. So in my talk, I will just take us back a little bit and just give the lay of the land in terms of first of all, United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 8. 𝗨𝗂𝗂, next slide, please. So sustainability refers to the meeting of the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And it encompasses environmental, social, and economic consideration in business practices and operations, in investments, and as we also heard in the talk before mine, looking at innovation, research, and development. The SDGs are a universal call to action against poverty, protection of the planet, peace, and prosperity for all. And in this instance, SDG 8 emphasizes the importance of sustainable economic growth that benefits all and not just a select few. And the goal aims to achieve full and productive employment and decent work for all, including women and men. And that these ideals are met through increased economic productivity, through diversification, technical upgrading, as well as innovation. Next slide, please, 𝗨𝗂𝗂. So when I just want to delve slightly deeper into looking at decent work. Decent work is defined by the International Labour Organization as productive work for men and women in conditions of freedom, equity, security, and human dignity. And so this means employment creation, social protection, upholding of rights at work, and also engagement in social dialogue by all parties to ensure that these environments of decent work are achieved. Next slide, please, 𝗨𝗂𝗂𝗀. Women across the globe, women in South Africa face a number of challenges, not just in the societal arena, but also at work. And this is, the case also in the mining sector. It's well documented, it's well spoken about, that women face a myriad of challenges, including, and these challenges are contributed to by cultural and traditional norms. They're contributed by underrepresentation in decision-making structures, as well as the intersectionality of discrimination. But today, I want to hone in more so on the challenges of unemployment and underemployment, as well as gender-based violence and femicide. Underemployment refers to a situation where workers are employed below their skill level, are working fewer hours than they wish, or are in jobs that don't fully utilize their abilities, leading to a mismatch between their capabilities as well as their potential. We know that women in the mining sector make up less of the proportion than men in the mining sector. Currently, women make up an average of 19 to 20% of the mining workforce. And as a historically male-dominated sector, and one in which physical exertion is required, especially in hard rock mining, it is not surprising that we have to make extra effort to transform the South African mining industry into an equitable, diverse, and inclusive work environment for all. This is especially so when we consider the historical legal background, which made working underground illegal for women until 1996. Hard rock mining continues to stand as a vital pillar of the global economy, as well as the South African economy, serving as the primary source of essential minerals for a wide range of industries. And so creating job equality remains, though it remains a major challenge, it also remains a major focus for us to achieve. Next slide, please, 𝗪𝗲. In 2023, the International Labour Organization convened a regional tripartite meeting on women in mining in Dakar, Senegal. The purpose of the meeting was to share country experiences, generate consensus, and identify building blocks to address the obstacles that women in mining encounter, and to advance gender equality and decent work in large and small-scale mining across Africa. And the intention was also to ensure that the building blocks are implemented on a multi-party level in each of the countries that were represented. One of the crucial building blocks that was identified to realizing an equitable, safe mining sector for women across the region is skills development and capacity building. Mining industry stakeholders have continuously highlighted that attracting and retaining women in the sector continues to be a challenge, and there is a shortage of qualified candidates, particularly women, for technical skills. And this is also further exacerbated by the physical nature of mining. Next slide, please. So let's look at technology and innovation as an enabler for the creation of a decent working environment, a safe working environment, and a working environment in which women can equitably participate. We know that rock drilling is fundamental to mining. Rock drilling and blasting are what provides access to the ore. And so next slide, please. In August of 2018, the Mandela Mining Precinct launched the Isidingo Drill Challenge. And the challenge was to manufacturers, to industry stakeholders, to design and develop a locally made rock drill that is more efficient, reduces operators to exposure to dangerous conditions, weighs significantly less than the previously more widely used pneumatic drill, and provides uses alternative power to the compressed air, and is quieter, reduces vibration, and is also humanly centered in terms of design, and is easier to operate, and also takes less time to set up and break down, thus contributing positively to production. Next slide, please. And so there were 11 participants in the challenge and 3 finalists. And the hydro drill is what was developed. The hydro drill is lighter in weight. It fits in the coalface area. It provides quick penetration. There is a reduction in drilling time. There is less wear and tear on the equipment, is quick to set up, and also uses less water. Next slide, please. Further benefits of the hydro rock drill is that you know, as we said, it's operated away from the noise. There is less exposure to dust, and there's also less vibration, which contributes to health and safety issues. And it is easy to maneuver, and there are less slips and falls that are then experienced in the use of this hydro drill. Next slide, please. I would just like to play a video from the Minerals Council National Day of Health and Safety in 2023 that speaks to the benefits of this rock drill, but also links it to how it has a positive linkage to women in mining. Please play the video, Balisa.
Can everybody hear that? Sorry, and see that?
We can see it, but there's no sound coming through. I think you need to allow for sound on Zoom.
How do I do that?
Maybe stop sharing, and then when you share again, just click on allow for sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then share.
Okay. I don't know if I should try.
Okay, please try from your side.
Let me try from my side. Apologies, colleagues.
While Dumi is still trying on her side, can we have those questions coming in the chat to keep the conversation going in the meantime? Would really
Thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you.
It's sharing. Okay. Apologies, colleagues. You know, you are either a fundi on Teams or you're a fundi on Zoom. I'm yet to meet some. Apologies, is the sound coming through?
Yes, we can hear it.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm 𝗡𝗁𝗂𝗵 I'm the head of health at Minerals Council South Africa. We are super excited, with the outcomes of the 𝗖𝗵𝘂𝗀 Rock Drill Challenge.
That was run in 2018, and we learned that there were 3 challenge finalists that we engaged to gain better understanding on the rock drill performance. Pillar 5 of the Force of Ground Elimination of Fatalities Action Plan, or FOGAP, focuses on enabling zero harm production. And the pillar 6 to look into ways in which we can improve production efficiencies so we could reduce cycle time. And that way we ease off time pressures from the teams, and they can focus on implementing control measures to eliminate force of ground fatalities. This is the basis of the Minerals Council's interest in the hydropower drill and the use of rigs and jigs to improve drilling safety.
It is much quieter, it is lighter, and it also vibrates less. Now, these are all very critical for health, in that, if you look at vibration does cause damage to the body. So us having a rock drill, which is, producing less vibration, is very good for our health.
We were pleased to learn that Impala was currently piloting one of the hydropower drills, and we were encouraged by the performance of the rock drill.
We took this decision to embark on this hydropower due to the struggle we faced with the compressed air shortage on our shaft. Because of mining in the extremities, on the boundaries, we were suffering from lots of losses on the compressed air. Then our employees were getting tired, taking long to drill the faces, demoralized and demotivated to come back to work.
The aim is to improve our safety, especially divorcing the driller or the RDO from the face, getting the people out of the red zone, and also making it possible with the ergonomics.
Importantly, the reduction in noise. This was the reason why this rock drill, had to be devised. The rock drills that we had were emitting above 109 decibels, which was very, very severely damaging of people's hearing. The industry has a major problem with noise-induced hearing loss, and that noise-induced hearing loss comes because of exposures to excessive noise. So with this rock drill, which now emits up to about 103 decibels, which is a massive drop from 109, and it will mean that we're going to have less noise-induced hearing loss cases.
Compared to the compressed air issue, we haven't had any follow-up round with this hydropower machine at Impala 12 shaft since 2022. As well as the morale as we come into these workplaces. The employees have started to fall in love with this, and they're excited to work with this machine.
To be an RDO is dominated on the man, but this one is open for all gender. Actually, I make the career. That's the career for women.
But certainly, we would say that we are really very pleased that we have got this excellent piece of machinery which is going to improve the health of our employees.
Thank you. I think the significance of this 𝗖𝗵𝘂𝗀𝗃 challenge for us as women in mining at the Minerals Council is that it really does speak to and touch on one of our fundamental principles, and that is to open up the mining sector to women and to allow women to self-actualize, and create an environment in which they can advance economically, they can advance in their careers as well. The opportunity, that is provided by this development to have women come in as rock drill operators really does significantly contribute to their ability to, in a very meaningful way, grow in their careers and really acquire technical skills that are required for the advancement of women in mining. And I think in closing, I'd just like to share this quote from Audre Lorde that says, when I dare to be powerful, to use my strength and in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mpumi, for that. That was super insightful. We have a couple of questions in the chat, but I'm only going to take one question, and then the other questions we will reserve them for the Q&A session at the end of this. But we have a question from Yuri, which says, what are the plans in place to address the challenges faced by women in mining areas, especially challenges of unemployment exclusions and skill development? Are there any national forums, organizations which are active in being formed to address such issues, to ensure that women's rights are protected and their issues are addressed, that women also get to sit at these mining tables? We understand that women need proper skill developments in order to access certain opportunities. So what is being done to achieve such challenges? Because we talk about these challenges, but there are few solutions. What can women faced with these challenges do, or where can they go get assistance in terms of these challenges? Can the council also assist in this regard?
Thank you very much, Balisa, from that question. Apologies, I didn't really get the name of the person that gave that question.
Yuri.
Thank you. So in terms of the council, we do have our social development desk that deals directly, with social development practitioners at the coalface and in communities. And then, we've got the Women in Mining desk, for which I am the project specialist. And one of our key objectives is not only to increase the participation of women in mining, but to also build a pipeline of women coming into the mining sector, as well as to ensure that women are safe when they come into the mining sector. We do this through working with a number of key stakeholders, and some of the stakeholders we work with is, as a cousin company to this organization is WiMSA. And with WiMSA, WiMSA has a database of entrepreneurs that come from, the different localities where mines operate. And what we do is work with them to then link the opportunities that are there in these mining localities with the opportunities that are there at the mining companies. This is a working relationship that we continue to foster to ensure that where there is a need and there is a demand, we can work together to ensure that women are empowered. And we do this also through our adoption of the National Strategic Plan on GBVF. And through the National Strategic Plan on GBVF, we also work with an organization called WiCona that looks at Pillar 5, that Pillar 5 focuses on the empowerment of women as a way to reduce their vulnerability to GBVF. And again, through this organization, we then look at, economic activities or economic opportunities that are available in mining localities, and how do we then link up the opportunities that are available and the women that can meet these opportunities. And then what we've also done is we've launched a national partnership on Thuthuzela Care Centers. The national partnership is between the Minerals Council, its member companies, as well as the GBV Response Fund and the NPA soccer unit. And through this, we support them to then increase the footprint of Thuthuzela Care Centers, and also to ensure that they are up to standard, up to code, so that we can continue to provide justice, aftercare services, as well as legal assistance and medical assistance to women that in the communities that are vulnerable to incidences of GBVF. So from the Women in Mining desk, those are some of the activities that we do to ensure that, we don't only look after women that work, within the mine, but our work spills over to the community. And we also then, track on our gender diversity and inclusion dashboard the the number of learnerships, study assistance that are provided with through our different member companies, with the view to then look at a pipeline and ensure that women are given the opportunities to participate and thrive within the mining sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mpumi. That was a mouthful. And with that being said, I think it is befitting that at this moment we introduce Dr. 𝗪𝗔𝗂𝗂, who is a seasoned leader in the business leadership and sustainability space with over 30 years of experience across mining, metallurgy, engineering, construction, and environmental sectors. She has held senior executive and board roles specializing in ESG strategy, safety, risk management, sustainability, and public speaking. Dr. 𝗪𝗂 holds a PhD in business leadership, a master's in chemistry, and a master's of business leadership cum laude. She completed a postdoctoral fellowship at Wits University School of Mining and is a GRI certified sustainability practitioner, a professionally registered scientist, a member of the Institute of Directors South Africa, and has over a decade of board experience. She is recognized for pioneering technology and competency mapping for ESG strategy reinforcement and developing the pioneering brilliance, the 𝗕CE and risk program, and contributing to social upliftment initiatives. A published Tier 1 academic author, she is passionate about advancing sustainability, innovation, and leadership in mining. With that being said, which is a mouthful, I mean, I can't breathe just reading your bio. With that being said, I think it's befitting that you wrap up this conversation for us. Like I said initially, it's a conversation that started over a year ago. So I think it's befitting that we bring it all together, looking at our SDG goals 8 and 16. Over to you, Dr. 𝗪𝗔.
Thank you so much, Ntsaku. If you can share the slides, please. So certainly, as was indicated a year ago, this team, together with other women that we will recognize as part of this session, came together to talk through the just energy transition. And as Boitumelo so eloquently shared with us, the SDG 8 and the SDG 16. There's been a lot of questions around mining. What is mining's contribution? So I'll bring in as well the voice of mining through 𝗪𝗓, where I am currently the Chief Sustainability Officer. Thank you. 𝗪𝗓 is gold, and we have a growing copper footprint. What is very important, and you've heard how passionately it was shared, in terms of the role of technology and how it is used to improve safety. Within mining, safety is our #1 value. It's key. I mean, we are stewards, including financial or economic stewards, which means that we look for profitable ounces that will improve margins so that we can distribute value to all our shareholders. Very important in terms of 𝗪𝗓 is we pride ourselves in having embedded safety within all 4 pillars of our strategy. And I'll use the just energy transition, specifically our renewable energy programs, to share with you how we have applied discipline and responsible capital to be able to move towards our ambition. There were also a lot of questions around how are women represented. Within 𝗪𝗓, we have a 25% gender diversity at board. This is very high up. I mean, we are sitting with about 45,000 people. So at board level, we have 25% diversity. At EXCO, we have 45%. And we also have significant representation of women within the technical spaces as well. So you heard Boitumelo share with you that within the industry, we're probably below 20%. So we certainly are exceeding, and I can assure you that the mining industry is stretching to be at these levels. Thank you. So why are we looking at renewable energy as part of the just energy transition? So within 𝗪harmony, we have a sustainability framework that is extremely ambitious. We aspire to be nature positive, which means that we will give back more than we are taking. So if you think about a mining company that has started up, there were no carbon emissions. When you start up as part of the process, you have emissions. We're all, especially in South Africa, highly dependent on Eskom. So we got to make sure that we move away from the coal-based, fossil-based through to carbon neutral fuels. Thank you. So as part of that ambitious plan, we aim to be carbon neutral, net carbon neutral by 2045. It's science-based because we've got Science-Based Target Initiative, SBTI, certified that we are on the right trajectory. We've also allocated capital to this program. So you can see phase 1 and phase 2, it's 425 million rands that we have already achieved in terms of savings from the capital that was allocated, which means that we have demonstrated a business case for renewable energy. Phase 3 becomes a lot easier when we are applying for capital. Thank you. What I would like to share with this team specifically, your question would be, you're investing. We've got green loans. We've actually won an award because of the fact that we've got green loans. We've investing, as you heard, from 𝗕𝗫𝗄𝗏. As a mining company, we inject our equity into these projects. How much of it is actually being allocated to women? So I share with you a success story. 𝗪𝗪 de Lange, she is South African born, and she started up a company, and you can see her, she and her partner, they started to look at LED lighting manufacturing. They looked across and say, listen, these skills are so adaptable to renewable energy. Let's put our names in and request from 𝗪harmony whether we can do your renewable energy installations. So what you see there with the pictures is Matimba Yeru Energy, level 2 black BEE, founded by a woman that has now a reference point that they can indeed install renewable energy panels. What I can also share, when I've engaged with the engineers, I've said to them, will you give them a chance to come through as we expand the phases? And the answer was, absolutely, we will. Thank you. So as you've shared, as you've heard, this is actually a continuation of the conversation that we've started. I want to just bring in the words of the speakers that came before us that were sharing around SDG 8, SDG 16, just energy transition, and what is the role for women in this energy transition. So we had Varsha that shared with us her ideas in terms of a holistic human. She's doing this research with the WITS, and I'm included there as well. The academics, including 2 professors, indicated that in order to empower women in the workplace, you've got to first look at people, and they need to be empowered to be holistic and healthy. She spoke about the inner holistic health as well as the interpersonal. The inner health, if you think about a human, change starts at our individual level. We know what it takes for us to be healthy. we've got to eat right, we've got to sleep right. Organizations also have a role to play in terms of psychological safety. So she said, once all these elements come together, we create a holistic human who is free to make mistakes, to think differently. And that is the basis for innovation. And you've seen the innovative ideas that have come through and how these have advanced safety and brought women into the organization. So really great groundbreaking work that's coming through from 𝗪𝗂. Julie, we all know really the voice, female voice in terms of diversity in innovation and technology. And she's really calling for a system of inclusion, which needs to be developed as part of that innovative cultural architecture and practices of an organization. And in doing so, she's saying that it is the culture that will embrace the technology and not just innovation alone. And she said, for this to happen, we need to have this diversified thinking. And she said, for this, diversity is prerequisite to innovation and technology. When we look at Lily's really the legal brain who spoke about the legal complexities when we start to balance economic growth that is in SDG 8, as well as SDG 16, which talks to the institution, integrity that comes with the institution. And she said, from a regulatory perspective, we must ensure that there is robust regulatory framework. And this will enable that shift from a low carbon economy, right, through to where we need to be. And she said that we need, in the South African mining sector, this means legal mechanisms must address such issues at equitable job transitions. I mean, you can think about it. If we are moving from diesel vehicles underground to electric vehicles underground, you need an engineer versus a diesel mechanic. But how do we transition this mechanic into an engineer? Through equitable job transitions, social dialogues, talk to people. What do we need to do so that you can break your fear and actually believe you can do the work of an engineer? Corporate accountability. I mean, 𝗏𝗵 spoke about having that dashboard, tracking your targets, and preventing exacerbation of socioeconomic inequalities while fostering sustainable development. So, really great words that's coming from Lily saying, let's sort out our legal frameworks. I'm not going to share what Dr. Khabu shared. I mean, really our male ambassador that's come through with a lens that says, looking at research, development, and innovation in terms of the activity and investment by South African mining firms, there is definitely a positive trend. He's shown us where this investment is going. And the one thing that comes to mind is all the hard work that mines have been putting into STEM careers for women. And again, he's shown us that definitely that mining companies are self-funding this. So it shows the commitment. And then 𝗏𝗵, Boitumelo shared with us, technology and innovation are enablers for women in mining. You can think about it. If we can reduce vibration, reduce the demand for strength, for muscle, what tends to happen is women starts to come in. As you have more and more technology that is autonomous, that is remote, we bring in more women. Thank you. And what I would like to leave you with, that was what our facilitator requested that I do, is what are the takeaways for JET? When we as women look at it, very importantly is that when we start to align the just energy transition to SDG 8, which is decent work, and strong institutions, we have a platform for advancing gender equality and for empowering women. So all the great things that we want as women, the economic opportunities, those skills development, inclusive decision-making, that empowering of this holistic, healthy human to be able to thrive at work, at home, and in the community, and strengthening institution will flow through. The other one is that let's believe in just energy transition. Let's put up our hands, lady. When you see a proposal for just energy transition, be like the example that I shared with you. They had absolutely no experience in energy transition. They were able to install, they are expert installers. They put up their hand so that just energy transition became more inclusive. And we can create a sustainable future for all our women and girls. So thank you very much. I'm handing you now back to our facilitators.
Thank you so much, Dr. Govender. That was a mouthful. And, you know, it is quite amazing when you mentioned something very profound where you spoke about Dr. 𝗕𝗄𝗄 being an ambassador for women in mining. We need more of those. We need more men to be sponsors and ambassadors, and also to support the initiatives that you mentioned. I mean, bravo to the lady who joined the just energy transition space without any experience. I think that is something that we all need to learn. It is something that we all need to embrace, and it's something that we all need to cherish at this day and age. Maybe just as we're looking at the just transition space, there is also the element of profitability. We're looking at the sustainable goals. However, there's also the element of profitability. How do we then strike a balance? Maybe if you can assist in that regard, Dr. Govender, to say, how do we strike a balance between the sustainability goals, which we all strive for, and the profitability within the mining sector, especially in upcoming businesses that want to be part of the space?
Sure. Thank you so much for that question. And it's a question that chief sustainability officers and sustainability professionals grapple with. What we found works very well for us is to have strong project management expertise that are rolling out these key sustainability programs. So the renewable energy program, you can imagine there's billions of rands that are attached to it because it's long period, up to 2045. That project manager will have the skills to demonstrate the payback on that project. And I can assure you, all our large CapEx projects, whether it's renewable energy, whether it is water treatment plants, are showing positive cash flows. And that then supports the business in the transition. Another important element is around securing the future. And secure future needs energy secured as well as water secured. So then it's a double win for the business because you're getting your payback. You are including the community as part of your programs, because as I demonstrated to you, we bring in these women, Black-owned businesses. We've got about 75% of our service spend allocated to local communities. So with that, you can imagine we become the preferred partner of choice to open up mines. So we reduce the time spent in terms of environmental authorizations, et cetera, because the community wants us. So I think really we've got to look at it as sustainability professionals. We've got to look at it through an impact measure lens, a financial lens, from a payback, from a benefit perspective. Thanks.
No, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. That is a mouthful indeed. I think this then follows the question as I invite the attendees and the delegates to engage in a Q&A with us. This then takes me to a question from Rebecca, because you mentioned the communities that you mine in. And the question is for Dr. 𝗕𝗂𝗶𝗀 that says, how are we currently looking at innovations in terms of creating sustainable livelihoods for our local communities left behind once the mines cease to operate? This is for you, Dr. 𝗕𝗂𝗶𝗀.
Thank you for a very important question. I think one of the things that is actually coming out a lot is the question of coming up with inclusive technological innovation. So you start thinking about innovations, but not just innovation for profitability, but innovations that actually accommodate the people. And there is research in this space is still very young, but we also been having conversations around possible research on what happens when mine closes. So the social impact of mining actually around the communities and how the innovation aspects can start coming in there to sort of have some kind of sustainable economic activity going on because of innovation and research in those kind of spaces. So it's still a very young field, but the conversation and the research is starting to actually take that direction, even though there's been some couple of studies around mine closures and its impact on the respective communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe to follow up on that, Dr. 𝗕𝗂𝗶𝗀, Mr. Amari is asking to say how much of this research is actually going into the health and safety space?
Yeah, thanks for that. So yeah, I mentioned another study earlier that we sort of doing also to sort of get a sense and explore as to what are the outcomes of the kind of innovations and technologies that different mining firms are. And one question that we also asked to the firms was that to have a sense of the expected and unexpected outcomes of their innovation and research and development activities in the space. So we still busy with that, writing the reports and all that. But we sort of, it's a relevant question. We thought about it. That's why we started also looking at the outcomes, but not necessarily in terms of only what they expected, but also what happens even though they did not expect it, whether it's positive or negative, just to have a sense of all these technologies.
Thank you so much for that. There's a question from Sia, and this one is for Dumi. How can countries ensure that gender equity is integrated into the implementation of the United Nations SDG Goal 8, which calls for promoting decent work for all?
Sorry, I missed the first part of the question. How can countries
ensure that gender equality is integrated into the implementation of the UN goals, especially 8?
Oh, okay. So how can countries integrate the UN goals into their,
gender equality? Yes.
Yes. So the starting point, obviously, and I'll give a South African perspective, is that South Africa is obviously a signatory to the UN, and so we are bound by the SDG goals, and we are also legally bound to take action, implement laws, implement policies, and also implement frameworks that would then advance the SDG goals. So again, from a South African perspective, the SDG goals are then not only incorporated at a country level, but even in the mining sector, you will find that as part of the values that mining companies would then speak of or engender, these would be linked to the SDG goals and also are then filtered down through to the operations. They speak about how members or staff members would then conduct themselves in a manner that links back to the SDG goals, so for example, ensuring a decent working environment, which then means that ensuring that everybody is, safety standards are upheld, not just safety in the mining process, but also safety when we look at women's safety in terms of how we relate with one another. So like I said earlier on, it starts with the legislative frameworks that are in place. We've got a very broad legislative framework that looks at, legislative framework from the Department of Employment and Labor. We've got legislative framework that looks at equitable employment and ensuring equitable employment and that nobody can be discriminated against. We've got frameworks that also look at the advancement of, previously disadvantaged people in society and in the world of work. And then these are then filtered down to workplaces where, as I said, in the workplace, we then operate within the South African legislative framework, and we then adopt policies. And through the policies, we then look at things like, how are we rectifying the unequal society? What do we need to do to ensure that, we have an equitable workplace, but also looking at the principles of the decent workplace. Another example that I can give is in 2023, the International Labour Organization, they promulgated Convention 190, and Convention 190 also speaks to the creation of decent work. And in Convention 190, it was ratified and signed by South Africa, and it was used to to make amendments to the Code of Good Practice on dealing with bullying and harassment in the workplace. And what it did is that it expanded the definition of bullying and harassment. And so through that filtering down from, the international organizations, then in organizations, we then look at what are the changes, how do we look at our policies, how do we apply these changes into our policies, and how do we then also make sure that we operationalize these policy changes such that we can collectively then achieve principles like the decent work principle. So, that's in a nutshell how countries, at government level, at private sector level, multi-sectoral, can then contribute to ensuring that those SDG goals are achieved. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I think that was very clear. I'd like 𝗪cia to come in. I see you've posted a question saying this situation is currently also addressed at procurement level. So maybe if you can just jump in and elaborate on that a bit so that 𝗤𝗻𝗄 is able to respond. While we wait for 𝗪cia to come in, there's a question here for Dr. Govender, and it starts off by saying, thank you for the insights from Harmony. This is from Rebecca. What are the key metrics you use to measure progress in terms of community sustainability at Harmony?
Thanks. Thank you for that question, Rebecca. For us, it starts with what does the community want? So we know within the communities, especially in the South African context, it's jobs. So we measure local employment. The next thing, people want to be trained to be able to be employable. So then we provide people with training. And then importantly, we look at what beneficiation comes from that training. So we track it until people are appointed, maybe not within Harmony, but certainly within one of the other mining companies. The other area that we look at as well is in terms of the procurement, which talks to local procurement, as well as women-owned businesses. We also look at issues around, are there grievances? Do we have grievance mechanisms in place? Do we have visibility where community have an issue, they are able to report their issues? and how quickly those issues are resolved. So those are at a very high level, the areas that we focus on.
Thank you so much for that. I see 𝗪𝗂 is here. If you can jump in and elaborate on your question.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I would like to point out what I'm currently faced with. I have an opportunity of growth in the industry by stepping up into an already vested company. But what are my opportunities actually with my women-owned company to step up with the services that are already rendered by an established company? Now, what I'm trying to say is this person is stepping down, and I have the opportunity to render the services at the mines level. But currently, it seems like I'm a little bit finding myself running into corners and not actually getting the joy that I need for actually bringing the services into the sector.
Hlaco, I believe that's a question for me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, 𝗪𝗂, for that question. I must say, unfortunately, I am not a specialist when it comes to procurement. And I don't think I would do justice to your question. But what I can say is that there is an organization that I refer to called WiMBiz, and it is Women in Mining Business. And what Women in Mining Business does is not only do they connect the different women entrepreneurs in the different geographical areas where there is mining to opportunities, but they also work to advocate for women, especially for their members. And they also, hold sessions where they upskill if necessary, or just give information sharing about, to ensure that women have a better success at gaining the opportunities that are available. So I would say that the best is to maybe get hold of the representatives at WiMBiz, who would be better suited to assist you, ensure that we can limit some of the blockages that you seem to be experiencing. I will share their details, their contact details with 𝗪𝗪 to ensure that they are easily accessible to everybody. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, Jimmy. Maybe just one last question. This is from Paulina, and I'm gonna address it to Dr. Govender and Dr. 𝗕𝗵𝘂. The question is, how is the mining industry better dealing with waste products that are produced? Are there any innovative solutions in this area?
Thank you for that question. It's really a great question, especially if you look at it in the context of the gold mining industry. Where's our largest volume of waste sitting? It's sitting in that mineral waste, which is the tailings facilities. So what we've done is we've reclaimed the gold from those tailings facilities. Through that process, as you would know, Harmony, for example, is a 75-year-old mine. 75 years ago, the requirements were very different from the requirements today. So a number of those tailings facilities are unlined, as an example. So as we reclaim and we deposit on a modern lined facility. We create jobs, and reclaiming those mineral waste is now contributing in the region of about 10% of our revenue. So again, business case extremely profitable. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Dr. 𝗕𝗵𝘂, on your side?
Thank you. I think Dr. Govender did justice to the question, but to share some of the experiences, I mean, I remember having a conversation, I think I was at Exco, and they're doing exciting stuff, talking about exciting information in terms of how they would have some kind of technologies that they would go back and actually try to work the ways to get the commodities, in smaller pieces and all that, but you can actually sort of remine the waste and get some kind of products or metals from there to also do business on. And there are some of the, I don't have examples, but some of the institutions or organizations where people become more creative and use some of the ways to create other innovative products that they think can be used, and that becomes business as well. But like I indicated earlier, it's a very young field at the moment, but we sort of also taking a step into that direction to really have a sense of what happens to the waste, what happens to people that lives near the dumps, and what are the possible economic opportunities that people can start realizing around that. And of course, I mean, advanced technologies to also try to get whatever commodities that remains in the waste. It's another possible way that some of the people are starting to think about to sort of create business in the spaces. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And this was a very mouthful conversation. What an insightful discussion today. We explored the role of innovation, decent work. We dived into sustainability in the future. And a big thank you to our incredible speakers, Dr. 𝗕𝗵𝗂, Dr. 𝗪cie, for sharing your insights and expertise. As we move forward into 2025, let's continue fostering these conversations. We will have more of this. I saw in the comments, we are definitely going to have more of these conversations. And to the audience, thank you so much for your participation. When you go into our WiMSA website, you'll find more dates for more events and more conversations. And thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you in the next Tech Talk.